I bet you are all wondering, Travis, how in the heck are you fitting all of your stuff into such a tiny space without losing your mind? Well, I am so glad you asked, because I'm gonna take you in right now and show you. Let's do it. So the trick here is organization, and this tends to be a daily chore in the van because it does not take long for a clean, organized van to look like a tornado went through it.
Oh my God!
I want to first start off by saying this is just how I have managed organization in a tiny space, but I honestly think it can be carried over into any living space that you have. Let's start with accessibility. Keeping things handy and keeping things that you use frequently, and I'm talking daily, in easy to reach places. For example, my go bag or book bag, my gear, and Sam's leash. I keep these all in a very easy to reach place by the door. You know, it doesn't take me long. I don't have to dig to get to them. And on the flip side, the things that you don't use frequently, just stow them away. You know, they don't need to be out all the time. So for example, you know, some of my bigger gear, like a gimbal or my slider, I just keep those tucked away. So let's move into home is where the stuff is. You know, always having a designated place for things. And this is where you can get creative if you live in a tiny home, is finding those specific spots that are kind of like, you just make them into storage spaces. They're just those little like, maybe awkward spaces that need, you know, they can be filled. For example, under the seats. I store my spare propane and hiking boots under the seat. And behind the benches, there's like quite a bit of space, but it's kind of skinny space. So I just am very intentional about that space. And I put my window covers, my vacuum fits back there, and a fan. So you can actually fit a lot of stuff sometimes in these small spaces. Another example for me is under the front of the console. There's like this little like space in the middle underneath the drink holders. You know, my running shoes go under there. So just taking advantage of those like little odd spaces. My gear locker, there was this like space between the driver's seat and the cupboard, and I just went to the Container Store and found these like skinny drawers and was able to make that in my gear locker because those are so easy to get to. So finally, let's talk about containers. Containers are your friend. So in the van, you might have like large spaces, like for example, my inside my cupboards, they're just all big and hollow. And rather than just throwing all my stuff in them and like smushing it in there, and then I have to like dig through it, I just keep everything in like their own little bins or containers. And that just kind of helps like separate things out into where they go. From my closet to the toolbox, I use containers. The toolbox is a great example because for the longest time, actually up till recently, basically I just kind of everything just kind of went into the toolbox. It was basically like a junk drawer. Finally, I was like, enough is enough. The only thing that I found that finally worked was getting little containers, one for tools, one for other things, and just kind of sectioning things out. And I think that has really helped. Now I don't go crazy every time I open up, and you know, it doesn't give me that like negative feeling like, oh shit, here we go. Instead, it's like kind of refreshing when I open it and see it all organized. You know, when you open up a drawer or open up a space and see like everything nice and neat, for me anyway, I just feel a lot better versus opening it up, opening the toolbox and just seeing like basically a junk drawer. It just kind of gives you like that little bit of stress that you may not realize, but for me, I definitely realize it. So yes, it's good to have an idea when you are building out your van on where everything is going to live. But in my case, I figured so much of it out as I went. I went through many trials and errors, figuring out what works. And you know, that's just part of van life, is just figuring it out as you go. So you can try to plan as much as you want, and you probably will, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but I just want you to know that it's probably gonna change as you go, and that's okay, because you kind of grow and evolve, and like you kind of work into your space. You kind of like get to know your space more, and I think that's great. And like you will find what works where And that might change, like where I put Sam's leash, for example, that might change. I might do like a hook someday that's even more accessible. It's just like making things easier for you, really, making your life easier. And I think that's something that you can really achieve when you stay organized. So that's it for now, guys. If you want to know anything more, if I left anything out that you're wondering, please just let me know in the comments below. I'd love to answer those. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.